She has been captivating audiences for years with her wit and charm, straight from the networking floor to give you all the dirt. It's Dusta! Hi, y'all, and welcome to another exciting episode of Down Home Dirt, the show where we dive deep into the journey of entrepreneurship with the people who took the plunge and the ups and downs that come with it. I'm your host, Dusta.
Hey y'all! Today we have Michael Rolon joining us today to talk about his many projects, his passion projects, and also his many businesses. And I'm really excited about this, his haunted house. Welcome, Michael. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Right, so, you want to tell everybody a little bit about your background, who you are, what you've done?
Yeah, so I have a pretty crazy story, a wild story, kind of my life story. It's kind of got me to where I am. I was born with an incurable rare heart disease. When when my parents were 7 months pregnant, they found out that I was going to have this heart issue. They kind of made plans to, just have this child, and knowing that they were going to likely either have a stillbirth or have a very short amount of time with them. So, my parents just kind of did their best to just prepare themselves. When I was born, um, it was a miracle. I was on the cover of all the newspapers in New York, some national newspapers. Miracle baby born. This was back in the early '80s, so medical advancements weren't really there. I had a number of heart surgeries at an early age, all the way through, adolescence. Started to live like a fairly normal life as a kid. At 19 years old, I had a surgery that I kind of always see as like my turning point as an adult. Went in for a normal checkup on a Monday. Doctor said, "You're not leaving." They put me in the hospital. My heart had clotted over. They tried some medicines, didn't work. Put me right into an emergency surgery 4 days later. During the surgery, an air bubble did not clear the heart lung machine, causing me to have an embolism eruption, caused me to have a stroke in surgery. I came out of surgery completely paralyzed on the left side of my body. They told me I would never walk again. I had to learn how to do all of your occupational, type things, learning how to breathe, learning how to like use my normal day function with my hands, learning how to eat, learning how to talk. I couldn't see out of my left eye. And so all those things really just kind of like made this time at 19 years old, a college student who, by all accounts, had kind of the world at my disposal. And it really just shifted the way that life was going to go for me. I already had these health issues that I dealt with as a child. But for when it got to that level, it made me realize that A, it was never going to go away. I was always going to have health issues. But B, I was going to have to set myself up to do life differently. Um, so I love sports. I'm a very competitive person, but sports was off the table. Um, I love to build things. I love, the idea of like being in that creative space, but by and large, like the hard labor was off the table. So I had to rely on my intellect, my wit, my, imagination, and realize at 19, like this is going to be kind of how you have to do things. Um, got into the restaurant industry because I love like the mentality of like hospitality and service. Did that for a number of years. Had some more health issues in my late 20s. Got married, got divorced. Wound up having some more stuff a couple of years back. 2019, I had a heart surgery, and I had another one in 2017. But the one in 2019 is kind of where my focus is. That got me kind of like on the right path, if that makes sense. So when I had my surgery in 2017, I recovered really horribly, not just like physically, but also mentally. I just was not prepared to go through the surgery and the recovery. So prior to my surgery in 2019, I'd made a commitment with myself that I was going to recover differently, and that I was going to use the recovery time to really start focusing on living into my like fulfillment of my purpose. Um, and so what I started to do was I started to look at, the the years of my life and all of the things that I had gone through, all the surgeries, all the hardships, all the, times that a doctor said you're never going to be able to, and then, me proving it wrong. And I really started to like sit there and think like, how? I've never been like a why person, but I really wanted to like analyze how was I able to get through what, people had said was impossible? How was I, born and living a fairly, capable life when they told my parents that A, I was not going to survive the birth, and B, if I did, I would be, handicapped or, have some sort of like mental disability to be able to function. And so, I've always found a lot more power in asking how than why. Because why just put you into this place of denial, and it's got this like victim mentality. Um, and I am the furthest thing from a victim. So my business that I run and what came of that mindset was I really studied my life first and foremost. Then I started studying like a lot of like history, and I've always been fascinated by tribal warrior cultures. Um, and individuals who have gone through hardships. So I mean, I studied people like, Gandhi. I studied people like Walt Disney. I studied people um, like Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, and this is my Roman Empire, right? But like by studying the past and kind of seeing how these civilizations and these people emerged in situations where there really wasn't any good cause as to why, I started to like stumble upon a pattern of how ordinary people are capable of doing great things. And so I started to like track that. I really put myself through the tests of, does this qualify here and there? And then I started meeting with industry professionals. I started meeting with psychiatrists, psychologists, um, life coaches, nutrition coaches, academics, philosophers, like anybody that I could talk to that had a discipline of like human transformation. I started to take the model that I created and the system that I had kind of like found this patterns in, and I started just throwing spaghetti at the wall and started work with all these people and said, "Hey, does this check out? Does this check out?" And one after another, they were like, "Yes, this actually makes complete sense." And so what I did was I essentially created this proprietary program that allows people to walk through these things that have worked for thousands of years. To help them fulfill their lives. Now, I'm a devout Christian. My faith is probably the most important part of my life, and so for me, like I had this realization, like these are things that we do as people, but there is like a higher power, and I'm not here to be like you got to believe in God, but I do think it's important that we all have some sort of like connection to a higher power. You know, it's very cool for people to modern in the modern day to be like, I'm spiritual, right? Or I have this belief, or I believe in nature or the universe, or when people say that, what they're really saying is that they have an understanding of a connection to something greater than them. And I think that that's like the most vital part about being able to do this, because like at the end of the day, like I'm only capable of so much, but there's got to be some like syncope with, the rest of life for things to kind of fall into place. And I'm just not a miracle worker like that. So, like, understanding that and pairing that with everything else, I launched my coaching business with the desire to like serve and help others do that. And my first year, I had 24 clients that one after another repeated the same cycle of, following this, they're getting this result. And I was like, man, there's something to this. So I built an online community, started putting my message out to, hundreds of people, um, and really just like found my place in this and my passion in that. I started doing motivational speaking at like 14 years old. So I've always been like really excited about using my story to impact other people's lives. And so that, kind of like helped me birth the business that I've been running for the last couple of years, which is Warrior of Impact. And the idea being that we all have one purpose in life. And we get confused because like we get lost in the process of finding that purpose. I believe that we all have the same purpose, which is to serve one another. What we're really searching for is the instrument to do that.
Yes.
And we find that in our skill set. And I always tell people, um, if money wasn't an issue and you woke up tomorrow and you could do the thing that you were most passionate about, what would it be? And oftentimes that answer, when we dive a little deeper, is the way that that person is drawn to fulfill their purpose. And it's different for everybody. That's the part that's different for everybody. I always said if I get paid to talk, I would be the most like happy person on earth, because it allows, because like I'm a talker. I'm somebody who likes to communicate. I like to be able to demonstrate more than just educate, or be able to put on display, so that others can follow in the footsteps, and I can learn from others while I'm talking, and learning to listen and all of those things. But by being able to do that, I know that my purpose is to be able to imprint on others a different way of looking at things, a way that they can make their lives better, or to give them some hope, or to kind of guide them to impacting others. And I truly believe that that level of impact, that if we all did, if everybody found their way to impact one another, we would have solutions to problems that we don't even realize are problems.
I agree so much. I got goosebumps when you're telling me about motivational speaking at 14. I was like, oh my God, at 14, I had a job, and that's about as far as it went. And you're impacting people's lives. And I love that. I also like to talk a lot. Now that you mention it, it made me really think about it. The reason I started this podcast is because I like to share people's stories, and I like to connect with them, and I like to help them. And I like to, bring about out information so that they are, it's not in the dark.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you came on. So you said you're from New York. I'm just curious, where in New York?
Queens.
Okay, I'm from Florida, which is I call it South New York because
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah. We always called North
So
Carolina halfway back. Like, because
yeah,
people go to Florida, retire, and then they realize it's too hot, and then they come to North Carolina.
yes, I didn't retire. I came here at like 27 because I was tired of baking in the sun. I was
Yeah.
like, hard pass. So I ended up coming here, and I've been here for, oh God, 10 years. I don't think there's ever any going back because it is just getting hotter and hotter down there.
Yeah. There's no way I would move back to New York. There's just no desire at all.
No, I feel you. This is home. It always has been for me. I can't explain it, but ever since I was little, I just felt like really attracted to North Carolina. And I used to like look at pictures, and I'm like, one day I'm going to live there. And my first opportunity to live here, I went to Asheville, and that is a little too cold for somebody who was baking in the sun.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up here in the Raleigh area. So I was like, hard pass on the snow all the time. So tell us about what was your ready moment to jump into entrepreneurship and to start doing all of this. I mean, obviously your medical history, but what else is an
Yeah. So I,
inspiration?
I think I go back to when I was 19, and realizing that uh, I notice a lot of resistance. Like when we want to do things that we're not meant to do, we often are met by a high level of resistance, and we don't recognize that until we have a level of maturity. Like, I think, looking back, most people can realize I shouldn't have been in that situation, or I shouldn't have been pursuing that one thing. And it takes a lot of wisdom, experience, and maturity to be able to recognize that in real time. And it takes a lot of work to even recognize it in hindsight. But knowing what I know now, I think, at 19, uh, I had a little bit of forethought to recognize, like, this isn't working. This isn't working. I have no desire to do that. I'm not capable enough to do that. And so really it started about built off of the back of having limited options. I just knew that I had very limited options on what I could do to gain a level of success that would satisfy my desires. Um and in a weird way, because I had always been fighting my fight, in kind of like I was in my own corner. When I was going through my health stuff, I had, it was like me and my God. And that was it. Like I had family by my side, but they weren't the ones that were, having to go under the knife, right? They weren't the ones that had to actually endure the pain. They weren't the ones that had to go through it. And so it changes the way that you look at the world when you are constantly fighting for your life. And so when I started looking at what success was going to look like, I kind of saw the same thing. All the things that I looked at in life became like a battle for me to go into. Again, why I've adopted this kind of warrior mentality. Now, to be a warrior doesn't necessarily mean that everything's a fight. Doesn't mean that everything's coming from a place of conflict, right? My favorite quote of all times is it's like an ancient proverb, and it's I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And the
Oh,
idea behind that is that I am prepared to I am prepared. I'm prepared. There we go. I think with this. Um there we go.
all right. We're
I'm
back.
back. So the idea behind that quote is that even though I don't need the strength for this situation, I have the strength to endure through any situation. And I just always love that mentality of being able to kind of tap into it. It's there's another quote by that I've read by Jordan Peterson. He talks about the male masculinity of, kind of like that fire and monster within. And, we've kind of been demonized as men for kind of having this brute mentality of, ugh, prideful, arrogance and whatnot. But it's, again, you want to have a strong man who has the ability to tap into that embrace while not necessarily needing to, because they can still have the kind, gentle heart to approach the world. It's the same thing. It's the same philosophy. And so recognizing that, I kind of looked at my options. What did I love, and what was I capable of? And in that crossroads, I surprisingly found a lot of options. I think a lot of times we are lied to by, society as to like what our options truly are. We build a dependence on the dollar bill. We build a dependence on the perception of others, and we build the perception, we build our lives around somebody else's reality. Somebody else tells us what's supposed to be. And even when we know that we're following our heart, we slowly but surely mold our lives into the desires of others. And I was either ignorant enough, dumb enough, or brave enough. Don't really know which one it is, to just kind of say, no, I'm not going to do it that way. And
N-
kind of just put all my effort in. And so I started my first business at 19. It was an online e-commerce store. Um, and it was what would be considered like drop shipping nowadays. Built like an online catalog and made good money, and just kind of realized, hey, this .com thing's going to be taken off. And this was like 2002. It's like there's going to be something to this 2002, 2003. And I realized that we were in a transitional period of relationships going from face to face interaction to an interconnected society where that communication is as quick as hitting a button. And so I was like, well, I got to figure out how to do that. So I just started reading and learning as much as I could about digital marketing, and learning about this new advent of social media 5 years later, and just always trying to be an early adopter of something that was coming out. If something seemed like it was going to be a disruption to the current way of things, I immediately clung on to that and really tried to figure out how it operated. So case in point, in 2020, obviously we have the pandemic, and I have a teenage daughter who was just talking to me about this new app that everyone's talking about, TikTok. So I was like, well,
I love
let me
TikTok.
check out what TikTok thing's all about, right? And it was still fairly early on, right? So I downloaded TikTok in February of 2020. Like, okay. Then the pandemic hit, and it became like the go-to source for everybody on anything. And so I decided, like, in November, because I had launched my coaching in October, and so in February, I mean, sorry, in November of 2020, I said, you know what would be really interesting from a social media perspective? Because I mean, at this point, social media has been around since 2007. With the advent of Facebook. Well,
I was saying
MySpace.
MySpace.
We're going MySpace, but that was like 2005. That I had my top 8 and I was good with that. But yeah, so I kind of challenged myself, and I've always thought it'd be really cool to create a social media account, with like the idea being like the transparent CEO. We oftentimes see things through rose-colored glasses on social media. We
Mm,
see the CEO with
it's true.
the Lamborghini parked in front of a Airbnb like mansion that they say is theirs, or on a yacht that's not, or they have those places out in LA where you can rent like a prop airplane to go sit in. Like, that is the type of level of like manipulation that I've seen from these successful gurus. So I was like, what if I took an approach where it was just going to be like completely transparent? And so what I did was I launched this account, and I would say, okay, I want to make 10 cold calls today. And I would say that. And then I would do an update and be like, the second person I called said no. And it just ruined my approach for the rest of the day, because the rejection got to me. So I ordered Domino's and I watched 7 episodes of a Netflix show. And then I posted it. And so
Love
and I
that.
did that every day on updates. And what happened was, within 30 days, I went from 500 followers or friends, like the normal amount of people, like from like Facebook friends that automatically follow you. And so I went from 500 to 12,500 in 30 days.
That's
And I was like,
amazing. And I love that you're doing that and being transparent, because that's actually one of the things that drives me absolutely insane with these people. Like, I made $1 billion. No, you didn't.
yeah.
No, you didn't.
So
Try again.
so did that, and I was like, holy crap, there's something to this. It works. And so then I started to like build off of that, and I wanted to start implementing a way to like use that to like grow my business. So I started really using that as a way to create these, 15-20 second like motivational speaking clips, ways for me to kind of incite some knowledge, way for me to like impose some impact and do that. And so I started doing that, and it started growing and growing and growing. Um, we did a Christmas drive and was able to do, this is just like one of my proudest moments, for being able to use that app. There's a couple of times where I was able to do this because I had this goal. Once I got to that level, I was like, I want to do something that impacts the lives of 1 million people. Like, that was just my challenge in using a social media platform like that. And so the first thing that I did was, for that Christmas, we wound up doing like Christmas presents for the whole family, for 7 families,
Oh, wow.
which was just amazing, because at that point I got monetized. So I was just taking everything that I made from my, monetized videos, and we were able to do Christmas for 7 families, which was amazing. Then I started to do, so I'm a big outdoors person, and I decided to do like a 40-day walkabout. Um and so I got my car, started driving, and just like literally planned this for 3 days prior. Got in the car, started driving, and I backpacked cross country every day. My goal was to meet somebody and like learn their story and like leave them with like a piece of me. All the while, I was broadcasting this, doing daily updates on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Um, I wound up getting sponsors, and wound up getting pretty much paid for a 40-day vacation cross country, seeing the most amazing sights, going to beautiful national parks, meeting people, eating amazing food, and ultimately really delivering impact on a personal level to so many people. And I was like, there's a lot of power to this. And then in September, I am a former New Yorker. I am a deeply patriotic person. I think that, it's like God, family, country kind of thing. Welcome to the South, y'all. Uh,
Right?
but um, but it's important, and so I created this challenge on TikTok called the 1 minute of silence challenge, and the idea behind it was that people would post 1 minute video with no sound. And the idea being that we did a minute of silence for the lives that were lost in remembrance of 9/11. So I created that challenge, created a hashtag through this campaign. And this was less than a year being on TikTok. That day, we had over 1.8 million people participate in that challenge, which
It's
was the
amazing.
equivalent in minutes of 970 something years of silence on TikTok.
Wow.
And so, like, within the year, I had my million impact. And it was just like, so I've kind of built off of that the idea to, be able to do these individual things and large. And so, kind of where I'm at now, after having a couple of, surgery, I had my last heart surgery back in December of this last year. Um, and decided to go back to school. So I'm in school as of January of this year, um, pursuing a Christian studies degree in seminary with the idea of going into it's like a focus on pastoral ministry degree. And so what I've decided to do is take my coaching business and actually morph it into a ministry, because the one resistance that I've seen and recognized with the type of people that I like to work with is obviously financial strain. The people that oftentimes need the most help are the same people who can't always afford it. And I didn't want to hide my talents and my abilities of being able to help somebody behind a paywall. That just didn't feel right for me. And so I'm in the process now of launching as a ministry, filing for nonprofit status as a ministry to be able to go about doing fundraising, to be able to qualify us as a ministry to be able to help more people, build out my staff with more people to do more things and help more people out through that. Um, I mean, it's a wild ride trying to do it,
It
but
is. Is this the Warrior Impact project that you're speaking of?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that,
Okay.
yeah,
And can you tell everybody like what you're helping them with
yeah.
so they have an idea?
I created that proprietary program that I had talked about through my coaching, which I found through the throughout the years, and it's built off of transforming people's lives in 7 different areas. It's their mindset, their sense of adventure, their spirituality, their self love, their ability to be visible, their ability to be vulnerable, and the level of impact that they're making. And so
It's
by
deep.
transforming those 7 areas, and I've got this, I mean, I run it like a workshop. I do it one-on-one with people and we work through those elements, usually about, a year of working together. But through that process, we are adjusting their mindset to be in alignment with their passion and their purpose. We're adjusting their sense of adventure with their desires. I think everyone, especially as adults, we forget to play,
Mhm.
right? Like we forget to, like, to make life a little bit more fun, especially as parents. I think we put so much time and energy into like appeasing our children and making sure that they are getting their satisfaction in their life and their sense of joy and play, that we forget to do it ourselves. And I think that as a parent, it's a great thing that you can share with your children. And so I talk about that. Spirituality, again, I think that we have to recognize that there's some connection in our lives to things that we can't, explain. And even though like I am a devout Christian, my business is run as a faith-based business. I work with people of all walks of belief, and I'm never going to shame, guilt, or judge anybody based off their beliefs. My goal is, can we just have that conversation? And I want to understand what you believe, why you believe it, and let's build off of that. And how can that belief strengthen your life? And to me, that's what's most important. And then that degree of self-love. There's so many people walking around uh today that have the mentality of I'm all right or I'm okay. They put others before themselves, but they forget that you can't serve from a full cup. You have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, and that level of self-love, not self-care. Self-care is great. Shower, take care of your self-care, but self-love, falling in love with yourself. And for me, when I went on my walkabout in that trip, that was the greatest takeaway. I fell in love with myself in like a passionate way. I fell in love with myself on a level down to my soul. I like and I love who I am as a person. And I couldn't have said that a couple of years ago. And so being able to help people do that is probably the greatest achievement. Just that one thing, because from there you build confidence. From there you're able to set boundaries. From there you are able to create expectations that are realistic and are in alignment with what fits into your life and what you need for your life. And so being able to do that with people and breaking down the blockers of the I can'ts or I shouldn't, is just a great breakthrough. When I see it in people, it's like the session that always happens. It's usually our like third or fourth session where we kind of go through like all of this like in a rapid pace before we peel back the layers. I always see their lights, like the lights in their eyes. I always see like their glow a little bit, because when you get people talking about things that they care about, it shows. And we give people a hard time about talking about themselves, but what part of like your life should you glow up more than when you talk about yourself,
No, I
right?
completely
Like you
agree.
you should be able to like when you talk about yourself, you should be able to like radiate that love and joy, and most people don't, unfortunately. And so helping people do that is something that I really enjoy being able to do, because I figured it out. And with all these things, figuring it out is only part of it. If I'm not sharing it, what's the point of like having that knowledge or that wisdom? Um, and then we kind of shift into like the focus on the tangibles, like the things that people actually need to work on. And learning how to be visible is easier said than done, because there's a lot of different layers to that, right? Like being visible in today's society takes work. You've got to cut through the noise online, but then also being visible in your community, being visible in your family, being visible in the places where you want to be seen, heard, and valued. Those things are important, and so helping people with that is really, that's a fun experience. um the toughest, hardest one, but the most rewarding, is helping people learn to be vulnerable. That's where we kind of start peeling back the layers of where the blocks are, what's causing you to open up, what's causing you to not want to be in front of people, what's causing you from pursuing the thing that you want to. And so uncovering that and really taking the baby step approach. I'm a big fan of doing one thing a day to change things. A lot of times when we look at making changes in our lives, we try to change everything all at once. And then we realize
I'm guilty.
a house of cards, it all comes crumbling down. And then we say, oh, well, that was a failure. Well, no, it wasn't a failure. You just tried to do too much. And
That's
so
true. And like failure is like the door to success. So if we're not failing, we're not finding that success.
right, it's all relative. So it's just, so I'm a big proponent on processes for success, even more than success. The process is kind of the most important part. And then finally is that level of impact. And that's where I get, to work with people individually, and it's a very personal experience. Where are they going to be able to impact others the most? What is that skill that they have that they're going to be able to lean into with their passion? And I think it's important to recognize that like our level of impact doesn't necessarily mean what we do for a living, right? It could
It's
mean
true.
what's our hobby, or what is our way, like what we do in our free time. And a lot of people are like, what's free time, right? This will help you
It's
find free time, because a lot of it is like cutting out the things that don't matter. There's so many things in our lives that we have as anchors to our next big thing that we don't even recognize. So a lot of those things are that. And so by turning this into a ministry now, I can work with people on all walks of life to be able to help them transcend to the next level where they're going to be. So, like, I love working with single parents, people that are going through divorces, active duty and retired military and their spouses. But then also, I love working with entrepreneurs and leaders who are looking to either start a new business or excel or change the way that they look at their current situation. And so, by being able to offer that at a pay what you can approach is kind of how I'm operating now. It's allowed me to have conversations that were maybe more limited, because nobody wants to talk to somebody that's going to try to sell them at some point.
That's
And
true.
so I'm very forthcoming now. Like, hey, there's no obligation. I give, I'll do a free consult with everybody. For people that are going through a divorce, I always give them a free coaching session, no obligation. Anyone in the military that is going out on deployment, coming back on deployment, dealing with a medical issue, or really for military, just about anything, they get a free service hour. Entrepreneurs that are looking to launch will do a brainstorming session for free. And then I'll tell them, if you want to continue working together, it's pay what you can, no obligation to, do any crazy commitment, but the longer more we can work together and whatever fits right, and I'm all right. If somebody can afford $20 a session, cool. If somebody can't afford anything, that's why I'm trying to build this into a nonprofit, so I can find that funding somewhere so I can do this. And then my goal is to hire counselors, hire nutritional advocates, hire people that kind of fit into this mold of being able to help people with all of these different elements of the program. So that's kind of like the horizon. And that's kind of my 3-year plan that we're at right now. First step is getting us designated as a 501c nonprofit.
That's amazing. This is a lot of information. I love sharing information with people. So thank you very much for that. So I wanted to also ask you about your biggest inspiration on this journey. Is there any one person or organization that just like really made you go, wow, this is something I want to do?
Um, Honestly, I think that it's uh, the biggest thing that drew me to this was kind of the faith journey that I've been on the last 2 years. Um, I've been a I've always believed in God. I've always considered myself a Christian. Um, but the last couple of years, I've really felt, I started to like demonstrate my life in a way that wasn't really in alignment with my beliefs. And I kind of like challenged myself. And a year and a half ago, I just got a calling from God that was like almost audible. And it was like, you've served others for so long. Now serve me. And so I took that literal, took it literally. I started meeting with my pastors and friends in ministry. Um, and we're like, I don't know what it's supposed to mean. I don't know if I'm supposed to go start a church, pastor a church, or what. Um, Ultimately led me to starting school back in January. Through the classes that I've taken so far, it's given me a deeper understanding of like that divine calling. Um, and I didn't want to wait till I graduate to kind of step in a position of service. And so knowing that I already had my coaching business, um, I slept on it, I prayed on it, and it's just the most sensible thing to take what I'm already doing, and it's already got a very strong model, and I recognized pretty quickly how it could be this model of ministry. And I don't know what your beliefs are, and I certainly don't want to get on here and preach to people, but one of the things that I recognize in studying is, so as a Christian, we are called to fulfill and continue the ministry of Christ. That's the goal that we have as being somebody of Christians. And so I started looking at like, well, what was the actual ministry of Christ? He spoke his message to the masses, but when he healed and when he performed miracles, it was always on a one-on-one basis. And so I've sat with that and I've recognized that. And in the most ironic of ways, people know Jesus' first miracle. Even non-believers know that it's the miracle of turning water into wine.
That's true.
And so I sat with that and I was like, and what I uncovered from that built out my entire model of ministry. And it sounds like, all right, we're gonna be doing some water into wine parties, but what I recognize, because this is like me studying like ancient scripture, not even just the Bible, like learning like ancient customs. If you went to a wedding and they ran out of wine, it was completely disrespectful to everyone that was
Oh,
there. It was a social faux pas to run out of wine, because it was meaning that you were not hospitable. And the Hebrew faith, the Jewish faith, was really built about customs, traditions, and that hospitality. And so to run out of wine, that was like a very big no no. And so Jesus turning water into wine was not about creating this like party atmosphere. It was about helping the married couple save face. It was helping them to maintain their status. And one of the coolest parts of the story was when they bring out the wine, there's a nobleman that makes a point and he says, at most parties, people start with the good wine and then they bring out the cheap wine. Praise to you. You started with good wine and now you've brought out the best wine. And so it kind of shows
Interesting.
that. And then I look at the parallel that, is made oftentimes in the Old Testament and New Testament as, Jesus being the vine. And there's a big part in John where they talk about the vine dresser being God, and the vine bears good fruit. And so it's kind of like in that thing. So Jesus is the vine, good fruit. That would mean like good grapes, the great wine. So his first miracle was actually presenting the greatest to a situation where they would be perceived as the lowest. And he did it in a way that was humbled. Jesus specifically said, I don't want anybody knowing that I performed this miracle in this party right now. We only know because it was documented, but we don't, like, the people in real time didn't realize that this was a miracle of somebody. They just thought it was somebody bringing that out. And I feel like that is how we should be doing ministry and service to one another. We should approach it from a humble position, and we should be doing it in a way to protect like how people perceive their life. I want to be able to, like, because the people that we're working with are people that have life, they have hardships. They have things that, they feel beaten down. They want something better out of their lives. And so that's either coming from a place of situation or comparison, or somebody told them something. And so by approaching them with a very humble servant-like attitude, with my desire to uplift them, it's the same thing. I want people to see them and say, you started out good and now you're great. And so
I love that.
that parable, and that's a very unique way of looking at it, I know that, but that parable of that, or that story of him turning water to wine, kind of really shifted my focus on how we can be humble servants to one another, and lift each other up without needing the credit. And I think that that's what we should be doing in service regardless, but especially in ministry. And so that's my desire, to be able to do that. And as somebody who's been a leader and somebody who likes to be out front, it's given me a really cool opportunity to, like, sit back and be like, you know what, I would just love to be a support role for people in their lives to live their fulfilling life, and that would actually be fulfilling for me.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because something I always like to highlight is people's support system. So can you tell us a little bit about your support system? Like, who's your biggest supporter and how has having that support helped you achieve your success?
Yeah, so I am a huge fan of mentors. I think that mentorship is vital to anybody wanting to achieve anything. And by mentors, what I say is, like, you should find a handful of people who are where you want to be, past where you want to be, or on the path to where you want to be, because you should be able to, with ease, have somebody that you have access to be able to share your hardships with, to be able to brainstorm ideas with, but then also to, like, have some sort of accountability and reliance. I have a very strong community of very strong Christian men that I surround myself with. I have a men's group that I meet with every other week. I host a men's luncheon alternating weeks. And so I've done a really good job of insulating my life with some really just, like, strong, powerful dudes who know how to do life right. These are successful guys in business and life. And, like, the mantra of, show me the 5 people you are closest with, and I'll show you where your life is heading, is the same mentality. Um, and so I've just been trying to, like, surround myself with that, and then I find people that are willing to give me time and energy to lean on. I have a couple of friends who have started their own ministry. They're kind of helping me through this process of launching this. Friends that own nonprofits, friends that are already pastors in ministry, friends who were, that own businesses. And, so I have these people that I can just lean on through this, to be able to do that. I have my family. that's pretty close that I can rely on and talk things through. And then just like lifelong friends. And the coolest thing is I'm very vocal about everything that I have going on in my life. Again, just try to be transparent about it. And some of the messages that I get from people are really awesome. Like I have a lot of friends that are non-believers, which is fine. Like I can get along with anybody, have a conversation with anyone. In fact, I think that that's important. I think if we put ourselves in a bubble of yes men, we are doing ourselves a disservice, but one of the coolest things is hearing from people who are not Christian recognize that like I'm still doing something good. I have a friend who's a devout atheist, and he said, "You're not going to change my heart, but I love that you're out there changing people's hearts." And I was like,
That's
and I can respect that,
very
right? Like,
inspiring.
because he sees it even though he's not subscribing, but he knows that somebody needs to, and somebody out there is going to. And I get a lot of messages from friends, just hey, keep up what you're doing. Hey, I got through this hard thing. I know we don't talk very often, but I always watch your content, and I always need to hear this and this, and just doing things without recognition. There's times where I'll post videos and I'll have like 200 people that view it, and I still go with the same amount of emphasis on the videos that I post that get 20,000 views.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
you gotta like,
And I'm glad that yeah, I'm glad that you said that because that's something I always like to say. Like when you're an entrepreneur, you're constantly, just you have to show up every time. Those 200 views, it can turn into 2,000 views. But if you don't continuously be consistent,
Mhm.
sorry, I have a little bit of a tongue tie, then it's not going to happen. And so, and success is very important to an entrepreneur, whether it's, emotional, physical, financial, all of those things. I understand that. Because for me, I measure success differently than I think a lot of other people. It's like how many people I can help even though I own a business. It isn't about that. It's not about financial. So how do you measure success?
I have a very specific definition of success.
Ooh. Do you mind sharing it?
Yeah, so success is being in the pursuit of something I'm passionate about.
I like that.
Because what I've learned in my life is when I actually achieve something, I have a moment of reward, right? A moment of celebration, but I deep down inside start thinking about what's the next thing, right? Versus if I'm constantly pursuing what I'm passionate about, serving people, being able to reach people, build relationships, stay in community, finding ways to help people, no matter what I do on a business level, no matter what I do in a life level, that is something that I can continue to do. And as long as I'm continuing to lean into that and pursue it, I am, in a sense, practicing success versus chasing
Ooh,
success.
I love that. I think I'm going to start saying that
Mm.
instead. How are you practicing success? I
Yeah,
really enjoy that.
yeah,
That's fab. Sorry. Sometimes I have like little self reflection moments in
yeah,
these
yeah,
podcasts, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh, wow, I didn't really think about that. So that's fabulous. So, what advice was most impactful for you? And like, what advice would you give someone who's wanting to jump out there and take the risk with
So,
anything in life?
yeah, so in the weirdest way, when I was 19, I had a friend tell me that I would never be successful as a business owner because I was too nice. And it was
I
honestly a golden piece of information for me because I wanted to prove him wrong. And I wanted to demonstrate that you did not have to be a jerk. You did not have to be like, this tyrant to have a business. Because I believe that business is built off of like our relationships, and nobody wants to be, have a relationship that's meaningful with a jackass, right? Like you don't want to,
know.
like we might be obliged to be in relationship, but I'm not going to choose to hang out with or do business with somebody that I don't like. That's just common sense. So I use that, and this kid was like 3 months younger than me. So it wasn't like I was like taking advice from like the Dalai Lama on like practical life advice, but it was a sound bit of advice because it was somebody's opinion. And every opinion is one that I want to take into account because I'm here to serve people. And if somebody's saying, "Oh, you're not going to be able to work with people," because dot dot dot, all right, well, I want to take that into account. And, if he thinks that, somebody else might think that. How can I, work around that without having to, manufacture a different persona? Like, I'm a big fan of not walking through life with armor on. Like I think
I
that
agree.
we put our masks on, we safeguard ourselves, and we create it. But there's a lot of like joy that comes in your life when you are pursuing things from a place of just authenticity. I am who I am. Take me or leave me. I don't want to be everybody's cup of tea. Like it would behoove me to like be the jerk more than try to pretend to be something that I'm not. Like I would rather be the jerk in business than somebody who's trying to just be a chameleon for everybody, because that's just not authentic. And so
No, and
for
you
me,
also don't attract the right people to you, to your business, to anything. And then it becomes a whole charade of trying to keep that up. I understand because I went through that trying to figure out who I was.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's just finding out what you're passionate about. And look, we live in a fantastic time that anything could be a business. Anything. I mean, you look online and you see the wildest of things, and then you find out these people are pulling six figures, and you're like, all right, you know, decorated paper clips, I guess work. I don't know. Like, it's
I'm with you.
the weirdest
Some
things
stuff I
work
see.
because it all depends on your passion. Because without passion, you will not have consistency. You got to be passionate about something that you wake up every day, because look, you're not going to make money for a while at everything. There's going to be droughts. There's going to be seasons where you're like, I don't know if I should do this. But I will say something that I've recognized is the moments when I wanted to give up, when I push like 3 more steps, 3 more days, 3 more weeks, 3 more months, that's when the success has always shown up. Always. 100%. Like there's no
And
question about it. It's like when I want to give up, now I say, okay, I'm going to pause in this moment. I'm going to acknowledge it. And I think when we start having that self-talk, it's important that we acknowledge it, but don't try to fix it. Just acknowledge it for what it is. And then do some fact finding. Last time I felt like this, I did this, and this was the result. Last time that I found success in this area, I did this, and this was the result. And then analyze which is the right path for you at that time. Just being very self-aware, which comes with, when you have the self-love, self-awareness is so much easier, because I think we confuse self-awareness with self-criticism. They're not the
yes,
same things. Being self-aware means that you are aware of things that are going on in your life in real time. Being self-critical or self-analytical means that you are in judgment of everything that's going on in your life at all times. Big difference.
it's true. And we don't want to judge ourselves because that's when we start getting into those negative thoughts and our mindset changes. And then sometimes that affects literally your entire life.
Yeah, and you're telling yourself something that other people have said, not you per se. You're subscribing to other people's belief systems.
That's 100% true. And you got to believe in yourself first and foremost.
Absolutely.
I think that's true. So, where do you see yourself in the future with this adventure? It's really great. I'm excited to learn
Yeah,
more
so
about it.
I'm my goal is to build out this ministry, and my goal is to just like get to a place where I'm able to serve people regularly. Um I think next steps are, certainly bringing in clients. I'm ready to start, bringing in clients. I've got a couple of people that I've started to work with, but really, kind of filling up my calendar of people that I'm actually working with. Um, Trying to get financed, whether it's, finding like an investor or going the nonprofit route and doing fundraising, and then kind of building out the team, because I know that I want to start surrounding myself with people with different ideas of, like, I've got the goal, but I want to surround myself with people who can maybe find different ways to achieve the same goal, and realize that I don't mind leading something, being the founder of something, owning something, but and I'm kind of past the point of needing all the recognition and needing all of the power, decision making, and everything to be me, because I'm not doing this for glory, which I think for me is like a big level of like maturity and recognizing. I think that's one of the big things that I will say as business owners, we get so attached to ideas, and we get so attached to um, a desired outcome that we sometimes forget that we're human, we could be wrong, and there are other people who have the ability to to do the things that we're not capable of. Like, do what you do well and surround yourself with people who can do all the other things well. And that might be a team of 5 people, 20 people, 3 people. I don't know what that looks like for people, but I know for me, I get caught in this having to do everything. And so now I have this desire to like really work with people and bring them into my team to take over these different aspects, because if I'm constantly having to learn new things, it's taking me away from time to excel at the thing that I am really good at. And so like making that a priority, I think, is really important for me. And then yeah, ultimately kind of being able to take what I'm doing, build out a model that we can take it nationally. I think our goal, like my goal right now, is to really work on a local level, kind of like the triangle area, maybe then expand to, working through the state, and then maybe breaking it down, into a national level throughout the US, and I don't know, maybe someday global. Um, but I know that I have a heart. I know I have an awesome program that has helped people. And I'm curious, and going into things curiously, I think is a good thing. But I'm curious to see how this transforms into ministry after running it as a business. So
Absolutely. And do you know who your ideal client is? Who are you looking for that needs you?
yeah, so right now I think it's the single parents, the people in the divorce community, military personnel, and then the dreamer who knows that they want to achieve more in life. Whether they're entrepreneur, they want to be an entrepreneur, and they're just kind of misguided on like figuring out how to do what they want to do, where they want to go. And then like people who are already in leadership roles or executive roles, or they're where they want, but they've kind of hit a glass ceiling and they want to find ways to get to that next level. So those are like the 5 or 6 different people, because really my approach is like life coaching and leadership coaching, and so kind of putting that into the pot. We can kind of help people on both fronts.
That's great. I kind of want to switch gears a little bit because I'm really excited about this haunted house. Can
Yeah.
you tell us about that?
Yeah, so in 2020, during the pandemic again, I recognized that trick or treating was going to go a little different. I've always loved Halloween. So I built a little walk-through haunted house for my daughter, and I was dating somebody at the time, so her kids as well. And they were thrilled with it. I did it again the next year, and had some friends come through, their kids, and again, people loved it. And that year, everyone was like, "You need to like open this up to people." And so I was like, so the third year, I built it on a larger scale, opened it up to people in the neighborhood. We had hundreds of people come through, and they loved it. Uh, Last year, went even bigger. Wound up winning some awards on it. We got we were voted the number 3 haunted attraction in the Triangle by WRAL. Um,
That's amazing. That's big.
yeah, and then I pair it with a nonprofit. So we do food. So we collect food for, so I'm a member of Hope Community Church. So we collect food for the Hope Community Church food pantry. And last year we collected about 500 pounds of food, which was fantastic. And so every year I do a different story. So it's a completely different theme, different story. And so the first 2 years I kind of just did it as like, like a typical like haunted house. Year 3, I did like Night at the Museum meets a haunted house. So like the haunted house actually came like alive, like it was a haunted house. So it told a full story. You walked through, and there was video screens that told the story through it. We're talking lights, sound, sets, scare actors. It was amazing. Last year, we did Living Nightmare. So there was a walk through Dreamland, and the nightmares took over Dreamland. So taking like fantasy of dreams and turning it into like deepest nightmares, and that was just a really cool, excellent experience. We had like 18 scare actors. And these are like, I mean, it's like a 20-minute walkthrough. It's an experience. And so, like I said, last year we got there. We were, recognized by WRL, raised that. And so I'm in the planning process for this year's theme. This will be our fifth one, and so I've got this like internal desire to go bigger, better, and tell the most amazing epic story that I've ever told. So I have created a custom story for this year. Um, and so I haven't released this on the site yet, but I'll go and tell you. So this year's theme is gonna be called Castle Bloodstone. It is going to be a walk through haunted castle. We are going to tell the story of this, mythical experience of walking through this castle, taking people back to a time of, dark ages and, full structure castle. If plans go accordingly, I will literally be building a full size walkthrough castle. Um, and so that's my favorite part, like building these sets and like larger than life experiences. Um, and I mean, yeah, I think that that's probably all I can share right now because I do like to have like the wow effects. But yeah, it's going to be something amazing. The goal is these are immersive experiences. So when you walk through, you no longer look like you are walking into somebody's backyard. And that's the thing I think that got us so much recognition, was the thing that people say is like, I don't believe that I was in somebody's yard or somebody's house. Because it is an immersive experience. It is something that, I like to play with people's senses, and have people really experience something that maybe they've never experienced before. Take us back to a time when we were like children and saw something for the first time. And so when I was younger, I had this, I always thought it'd be really cool to be like a Disney Imagineer, to like go and
Ooh,
like
yeah.
create, the attractions and stuff like that. And so like for me, it's like less about building a haunted house than it is like taking people on an adventure of curiosity. Like I grew up like being a big fan of like the Princess Bride and the Goonies, and like those, like, the never ending story, those stories that like captured our hearts and took us to a different place and allowed us to experience something that was maybe a little bit away from our day to day. And I think with the current climate of our, society of division and this, when we have opportunities to come together, to laugh, to cry, to, you know, be in jubilation and joy, there's so much value in that. And for me, like I said, it's not about scaring people. Although like I do love like the scare elements and stuff like that. What my true joy is like touching on the part of people's imagination that they don't think of. We don't like, think about what it would be like to walk through a castle, to see a life-size dragon, to
That'd be interesting.
yeah, well, to experience like wizards and sorcerers and kings on a throne and damsels in distress and walking through like a swamp or a dungeon or anything like that. We can't wrap our heads around that because when we think about it, we go to our correlation of a movie, right, or a good book, but we don't get that level of perception of what that's like. And so for me, it's about immersing people in experiences that they wouldn't normally be able to get. Like I would be totally fine doing this without the scare element and just being like, hey, this is a fun house. This would be fun, like, and I would still feel like it would still be that same level of value because what people are really looking for is like a momentary escape, to see
Mhm.
something that they're not sure what they're going to see. It's the mystery of what's around the next corner, right? Like, I mean, I've been building houses now for 5 years, and there's certain ways that I could tell you, and it still wouldn't be giving away the house, right? Like, so when you go into a store, they have these things called end caps, right? They always put the things that people can buy, usually cheap trinkets that are going to be able to sell that you wouldn't normally get because you're looking for them because somewhere along the way people trained you to look for them. When you build a haunted house, you do the same thing. You use angles, and it's always in the angles that you have your scare. I could tell that to people every day. You walk through the house, you're still going to be looking for it while not expecting it.
Ooh, that sounds so exciting.
And so it's that process of being a part of a story and telling the story. And, I'm excited this year because I'm telling a fully creative story. This is, this castle that I'm creating, this lore that I'm creating, the backstory that I'm creating, and all these characters that, are going to take people to a magical land to experience something different that they maybe never have, never will again, because I never tell the same story twice.
You know, that reminds me, when I was in high school, this girl used to wear two different earrings, and I'd be like, why? And she'd be like, because what's the point of seeing the same earring twice? And I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
But Labyrinth was my favorite movie growing up, and I totally understand. Like, I still
Absolutely.
have the DVD copy because I'm
Oh,
that
yeah.
old.
Yep. Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, like just like there's like a whole genre. And it's funny because like you knew exactly the type of movies I was talking about without saying the type of, is the, yeah. It's just that like that adventure series kind of mentality of like going on an adventure, facing a challenge, overcoming. That's what we do in haunted houses that tell a good story, right? Like you're walking through, you don't know what you're going to do, and you're going to come out the other side, but it's what you go through in that process. And I I don't know. I've found a creative way to do it without having to jump into some of the cliches. Like, as a Christian, obviously, like I don't put anything satanic. I don't do anything demonic in there. I don't do anything that is anti-religious or anti-God because I mean that's important. I get it's obviously a little weird to some people that somebody who's a Christian is putting on this thing, but yeah, I mean I think I do it to entice the childlike nature of people to have a moment of just experience. It's an experience. It's the best thing that I can put it. And we are fortunate enough to have gotten some recognition. I'm working with a company now. This is not official, so I can't say this, but there's a chance that we might be getting uh, national recognition for our haunt. Which will be just out of the world. But I mean, just the and it's crazy because I think I have like 100 and something people that follow the Facebook page. It's not much, but thousands of people. Like I think we had well over 1,000 people that came through last year.
Well, I found you because you posted, I don't remember what group, but some group, and I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I love Halloween, and I live a little outside of Raleigh, so I don't really feel like people do a whole lot here when it
yeah,
comes to
yeah.
decorations and stuff. So I got so excited. And then I don't know if you're on this, but there's like a map where you can go and like you could register your haunted
Fright
house, and they
maps.
have all this. Yeah,
Yep,
okay. So
yeah,
you
we're on
know.
Fright Maps. Oh yeah, we're on Fright Maps. We've got a pretty good rating on Fright Maps.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so awesome.
yeah.
So
Yep.
when does your haunted house run? Like, what are your dates?
So, still trying to figure that out. There, at the very least, it will be like the weekend before Halloween because Halloween's on a Thursday this year. So at the very least, it'll be like the Friday, Saturday before and on Halloween. We might. So it really depends because I got to start doing like my volunteer recruitment and everything. So like scare actors, which takes time to get people committed. I got
Oh
to
yeah.
get my build volunteers. Trying to like I've built this completely by myself the last couple of years. With what I'm trying to do this year, there's no way that that's going to happen. So I've got to get some people to like my volunteers for helping me build. So I'm starting the planning process now, getting all of my things designed and stuff. And I usually start at the very latest the first week of September building it because it does take me quite some time to build it all. And with doing everything completely custom this year, and there's very minimum that I'm going to be able to use from years past. There's going to be a lot of like new stuff, so I'll definitely be doing that. But so yeah, at least that weekend before and Halloween. Um, if it's done and I get the right, I've always wanted to do it for 2 weeks. So like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then on Halloween. So that's the goal, but as far as now that and but I'll be updating the Facebook page Facebook page for that, which is the house on Echo Hills is the name of the haunted house. And so that way we will be able to put out enough information there, and hopefully we'll be able to partner with WRAL again to put some information out there. We are definitely on Fright Maps, and we'll be putting some information out there. I've been actually talking with the uh, team at Fright Maps, and we're partnering with them on some cool things uh, to try to like work towards building up Fright Maps in this area. Um, and so yeah, there's just a lot of really cool things with that process, and uh, it's one of my favorite projects to work on through the year. And then of course, like I said, my goal for this year is because we don't charge to get in. We ask people to donate food, and we post the items that were most in need on the list on that Facebook page, and all that will go towards the Hope Community Church food pantry. And our goal for this year is to get 1,000 pounds of food.
I love that you do that and you help your community. That's amazing. This episode, I just had to look at the calendar real quick, is going to drop October 22nd. So that'll give people enough time. And
Oh,
obviously, you'll be tagged
perfect.
in it. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's even perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
so when it drops, everybody will get to know about it. That's why I was so excited that you were coming on. And I was like, this is perfect timing
Oh,
because I
absolutely.
need a good
Yeah.
Halloween episode.
So
I
yeah. So if you're listening to this right now on October 22nd, go on the Facebook page to see if we are up and running now or when we're going to be running.
Right, like I can't wait to see the progress of this, and I'm super excited
Yeah.
about it. Is there like an age range of people that you like that it's comfortable for?
So one of the things that I did a couple of years ago that I might do this year, just based off of this build, was I did tiny creeper hour, like a creeper
Oh,
hour from like 6 till 7, and so essentially no scare actors. It was only animatronics, because obviously still scary, but not that same level of somebody jumping out at you or anything like that. So we might do that again this year, but I can't guarantee it just based off of what the build's going to look like. But at the very least, we usually run it about 7 till 11. Most nights,
okay.
7:30 to 11 on the nights that we run it. So that way we can accommodate. We ask that we'll set up our queue line. Usually, people start showing up around an hour before we open to get in the queue line. Queue line, when we opened last year, almost every night had 200 to 300 people in it. So it's one of those things. Get
Wow.
there. We've got instructions on where to park. We're right by because my neighbors, they love it, but I also want to respect my neighbors, so we try not to like allow too much parking on the street and stuff like that. We also have a lot of really awesome photo opportunities for people. We've got 12-foot skeletons, 7-foot pumpkins, 8-foot witches. So people can come and take pictures. If you're parking up and down the street, it makes it a little harder. It blocks all that out. So, we've got instructions on where people can park, when they can get in queue line, obviously having all the different things that they can do. This year, we're also going to be, they're going to be selling merch. We've got some
Ooh.
glow in the dark tumblers that we're going to be selling, some t-shirts, things like that. So we can, you know, I put thousands of dollars into this every year. And so just like ways to be able to continue doing this, uh, you know, think about just doing something fun, like, different merchandise that we can do for it. So we'll have things for people to do while they're waiting in line. We usually got some fun, like, themed music, in the queue line. And, yeah, so it's a really cool experience. It's something that, we have fun doing. Um, I'm definitely going to be trying to get my team together here shortly, and it's a fun process.
I cannot wait. I am so excited. So do you want to tell everybody where they can find you for the coaching business?
Yeah, so I'm on social media pretty much everywhere at Warrior of Impact. At Warrior of Impact on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and you can find me on my website, warriorofimpact.com.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming out today and telling us all about you. You are so amazing. I cannot wait to share you with other people. And we're definitely going to do this in October so that everyone can go to your haunted house. And that is haunted. What is the Facebook page again?
The house on Echo Hills.
House on Echo House. I don't know why I had haunted in my brain because
Yeah.
you kept saying haunted house. That's why.
Yep.
No big deal. All right. Well, thank you for coming out. It's a great episode. And we'll see you guys next time for another awesome episode of Down Home Dirt.